Hello, welcome to this new episode of Harmoniously and Cacao. You doing?
How you doing?
How you doing, everybody?
We're back.
We are ready with
And we have
our
our
cacao.
cacao. I actually am using a different mug. I have my
Oh,
cacao mug, and I totally forgot to use it. So different mug
oh,
today,
okay.
same cacao.
Cacao mug.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. I was like, that's
Somebody
why I
dropped
didn't
it.
use it. Rob
Oh,
broke it.
smash.
I
No,
need a new cacao mug now.
We could
It's
have done.
sad.
I should have saved the pieces. We could have gotten some
Done,
gold paint and
done like a
some.
kitsugi.
Yeah,
Yeah, put it back
exactly.
together.
That would have been
We
good.
probably should have.
Yeah, missed opportunity.
All right.
yeah, and we'll see. I mean, you're definitely worth it of a new cacao mug.
Totally.
See what's
Yes,
happening.
and
Worth it.
I'm
Come on.
saying, and then that's obvious, but I'm saying that because that's the
Our
theme, the topic
topic.
of today: self-worth,
Yeah.
self-value, and so on.
Mhm. Mhm. As
So, but
always, a great topic.
I like this topic a lot.
Yeah.
yeah, I think we're gonna dig in and probably we're gonna just scratch the surface because it's
Mm,
such a big topic and so important.
exactly.
Mhm. Okay, let's start with the
All
cacao.
right.
So, Laura,
We'll
you
start
want
with
to
the
bless?
cacao. So, if we can put our cacao up to our hearts, close our eyes, take a deep breath in, and smell that beautiful aroma. Connect with this beautiful cacao and the spirit of cacao. I'd like to give gratitude to the people who made the cacao, to all the souls that touched it, that honored it, that put their intentions and love into it. I thank you and I honor you. To the spirit of cacao, I give enormous gratitude and reverence. I thank you for allowing us this opportunity to connect with you at this time, to open our hearts, to have us broaden our empathy, our connection to all that is around us. I thank you so much for this opportunity, and I look forward to having the rest of the day to use my open heart and spread my love with everyone around me. Aho.
Oh,
Thank you for this beautiful
Mm.
blessing. So, what kind of cacao you have?
It's the same. It's the same one. It's from Peru. So,
yeah. We got a giant block that we have to shave a little bit off.
yeah,
It's like
Wow, nice.
huge chocolate bar that's like now down to maybe like 4 pounds
it's
instead of
like a
5.
half. We've used like half of it.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was a huge. I mean, it was like huge, and now it's
Okay.
like half. But
Well,
it's really thick. It's like at least what, 2 inches?
like the
Is that
size of the
2 inches?
top of a shoebox, you know.
Yeah,
And we've used half of it. It's pretty yummy, good stuff. I
yeah.
like it.
It's really yummy. It's got a different. It's not as sweet as like Hannah's cacao. It's definitely a little bit more bitter.
Hmm.
But it's really really good. I
There's a
like
lot of
it.
smoothness to it. It seems like there's a lot of fats in it, and you don't need any chapstick after having a cup. A lot of what is it? The
Oh, it is.
cocoa butter
So,
I think
that
that's from.
separates.
I don't think that's from the cacao. I think that's from the oat milk that I put in it.
Mm.
okay, okay. Well,
Whatever it
cacao
is,
that
I'm
does have
very,
fat.
very kissable now.
Yeah, I mean it does too. So maybe it's a
So,
combination.
and so the cacao makes you worth of being kissable. Okay,
Yes, yes.
receiving
Absolutely.
kisses. Oh, that's the
I have
first
no
time.
idea of
Right
that.
into the microphone. Sorry, everyone.
Mm.
Oh, Hazel
That's
is
beautiful.
trying so hard to get up
Mm.
here. Okay.
Hi,
And we have a
Hazel.
dog.
Say hi. Say hi. Hazel, say hi.
Hazel doesn't believe in screens or cameras and
No, over
doesn't
there.
acknowledge the
Over
existence of
there.
anyone on a
Look.
screen or a
Look.
camera.
This way.
Nope.
This way. If she could hear your voice, then she would be able to.
Oh,
She'd
yeah,
look
yeah.
your way. But right
Yes.
now she's looking. There's some guys like across a few houses down across the pond that are going to be, it looks like, working on the pond, and so she's looking at them trying to wonder who these guys are walking around the pond.
Hmm.
She's too
So,
focused.
unfortunately, Hazel's lack of interest in screens is damaging to one's self worth because I
Yeah.
have been on the other side. In fact, it was just the other day when I was talking to our son and I was not at home, and he put the camera in front of the dog, and the dog would not look at me, didn't care what sound was coming out, didn't nothing. He's only interested in getting away from that screen.
Yeah.
So,
And so
you're
you
not,
felt, I
yeah,
mean, so
well,
you
it just
felt
didn't care
unworthy.
about me. Yeah. Well, it's a different story when you walk in the door because she then smothers you and she won't leave you alone. So I know I'm worthy of it. So it's just a weird thing about her reaction to a screen. But if not interpreted correctly, one might think that, oh yeah, well,
Hmm.
dog doesn't care about me.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not worthy of the dog's attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So that's one point. And many times we connect self-worth or worth to outside attention towards us.
Mm-hmm.
A
Yeah.
lot. A lot. And
Yeah.
we're taught that at a very young
Yes.
age, because you go into school and the top performers get
Mm.
special treatment or certain things or different opportunities or awards.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not in that group, then you're told that you're not worthy. You're shown you're not worthy. You know the the practice has proven that some were worthy and they got it, but you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And unfortunately, we start learning that at a very young age. And then we start going into sports, and there's more of that competition. And then you get out into the real world, and there's more competition. And
Mhm.
that can have a snowballing and steamrolling effect if you don't get out
Mm-hmm.
to an early start and
Mm.
start winning and achieving. And you know, fortunately for me, I was one of those people who was able to, build that self confidence, and I do think that I'm worthy of certain things. But if you were dealt a different hand,
Wait, do you really believe self-confidence is tied to self-worth?
yeah,
Because I've seen some really people outwardly, people who appear to be very self-confident who are not.
Mhm.
It's because of the fact that they're deep down don't feel worthy. But
in my personal case, I feel that there's a connection.
mm,
In other people's personal cases and in their development and how they grew up and interacted with society and culture and family and friends and whatnot, it might have painted a different picture for them.
mhm. Well,
Um,
no, and I agree. I think they are tied.
yeah, I
Mm.
think one
To,
builds on the other,
yeah,
right? If you have confidence or you have worth, I think it reinforces the other position.
right. But on
Mhm.
the same token, I really believe that there's people out there who project self-confidence who actually don't have it.
Mm.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
it's
that's
really
another.
confusing as someone who's either in a relationship with someone that has low self-confidence where you're just not aware of it, or, you're just, a coworker or someone that is just a casual acquaintance.
Mm.
You might get the wrong impression that they have very high confidence in themselves, self-confidence. And really when the fact is that they have very, very low self-worth.
Yeah,
Mhm.
self confidence it's a weird word because I think everybody doubts themselves a lot. I think it's
Mhm.
just natural.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I don't care if I mess up and I fail, and I really don't care what most other people think. So therefore, my tie to the result is completely personal, and I have no real care about what the external factors and forces think about the situation. And it's what Melissa kind of started with, is those external factors.
Mhm.
How can you not care what other people think?
If I know that I'm doing something that I think is right,
Mm.
in my heart and appropriate, and I know that I'm
But doesn't
acting in
everyone
good faith.
think? I mean, to be
Nah,
fair, like
man, when people
honestly,
are doing
most
bad
people,
stuff,
90% of the
usually they
time,
know it.
no.
You know the things that you shouldn't
90%
be
of the
doing.
time, I believe people act at like in their best interests, and in that they're doing what they think is right. 90% of the time, it's like it's
Mhm.
really rare someone's like, I know this is wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway. Most of the time, they truly believe in what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we have two different things what we're talking about. One of them is the more implications of making a choice, right? And the other one would be outside influences on like you deciding which job to take, right? That kind of a decision,
Well,
right?
I mean, but either way, you're still
Or
caring
what,
what
for
someone
your,
else thinks.
I mean, but if it's your own personal decision, and I mean, if you're making a decision that's going to impact lots of other people, then you definitely should be thinking, about those other people that you're impacting. But if this is something that's a personal decision to you in your life, you make that choice.
Yeah,
Like,
and I wanted to go back to this idea. So self-worth, like we were saying, self-worth, the way we normally as people feel it or see that it is built and grow towards our childhood by comparison, by like outside attention. And so like if we are the best in a sport and that's all these competition things. So people outside give us worth outside of us. That's what I mean.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
so that's how society condition us on one aspect of self-worth, condition us to think of our worth. It depends and is connected to how people's attention and we get people's attention if we
mm-hmm.
perform good at something.
Yeah.
And then growing up, we get people attention if we money or lots of money, which is again performing good at something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we were saying, and then Rob also was saying how then when you will self-worth, then you may feel confident. No, but the other thing, okay, that it was saying, and I think that's the other, in a sense, the true self-worth that comes from within, which is when you feel something is in alignment with your soul and with yourself. So it doesn't matter what other people outside think or do or say to you. There is that confidence inside you that gives you that inner self-worth, and you just have the confidence, the real confidence, the real self-worth of what you're doing, because it comes from this frequency, this alignment with your soul. Is that what you were talking, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, it's just inherent. And what I think is
Mm-hmm.
kind of interesting is that you can have those, external forces that help build that. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, you can totally have internal ones that, tear it all apart. So, like, for example, you take a young child who's a good student and a good athlete, but they got crappy social skills,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they're going to get lots of validation from teachers and coaches and stuff, but their peer group, is not going to be very accepting of them if they can't get along with other people. So even though they get that external validation from some sources, they have this, more debilitating internal destructive force of
Mm-hmm.
not feeling worthy of having interactions with other children or
Mm-hmm.
friends or those types of situations, and that can be totally very damaging.
So then that really like lends the question, what is more important, like getting that validation from, like, even if you like in your example, you the child got so much validation from their coaches or from school, and then they went home and didn't get the validation at home.
Hmm.
So is it more important to have that validation at home as a child or through other sources?
uh,
It's just really interesting.
I'd say at home, because if you're not good at sports and school, throughout your life, you're going to find stuff that you are really good at. If
But
you
as a
don't get,
as a kid, you don't know that.
no, but you will. If you don't have that validation at home and that doesn't build your
Mm-hmm.
confidence and cement your self-worth of who you are as a person, that's going
Mm-hmm.
to chase you for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you all of a sudden find that you're a better person
Mm-hmm.
because you didn't have that validation growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's,
I
I think,
think.
for me personally, I'd rather be in that boat,
Mm-hmm.
because you can find you're a good painter later on in life or a good carpenter later on in life or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's definitely very important as a foundation when you're a kid. Then, when you're a teenager, probably it becomes a little different. Will be more the peer group, but when you're a
Mm-hmm.
kid, it will be more from so your home
The
and
parents.
having
Yeah.
yeah, your parents and having the safety, feeling safe, feeling loved, and all that. That will make you feel grow your self
Yeah.
worth. Sorry. And then growing up as a teenager, probably your peer group at that point, because there's this
Mm-hmm.
little bit separation with the family. But if you already had this strong foundation, then that will be, you probably will have an easier time also, and a place to go back to. And then growing up as adult, I think at that point, and at least that's where I'm at, exploring the self-worth, that is just like exploring more of what is self-worth without outside validation. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
when you're a kid, when you're a teenager, that's the only way you know. And that's also really related to how we are as human, survival, and so on. So you need to feel safe and have this validation from the outside, from the family, the peer group, so that you feel you're surviving, right? The survival mode. But
Yeah.
when you're growing up and when you're in a spiritual path, at least that's what I'm exploring and looking into, like worth that comes from just from within, from your soul, from the universe, from just worth, being worth because you exist, which
Mm-hmm.
it's where I'm exploring that it is a challenge, because we are so used and conditioned to have
Hmm.
our worth connected to this outside validation, which is money or how many likes on social media. I don't know, all these things,
Hmm.
Yeah.
right?
So that begs the question of, what does one do in order to, I don't like the word develop.
Mm-hmm.
I think to reveal your self worth, because I think
Hmm.
we're
Yeah, I
all
like that.
invaluable. We have so much worth, we can't even begin to describe how worthy we are.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't develop that; it's already there within you. It's the potential. And how does one realize their self worth?
That's
If
the real question.
yeah,
Like, what is it? And so I guess that question, how do you recognize your own self-worth? How do you develop it,
well,
or discover it,
if it's not coming
reveal it?
from the outside, it's got to come from the inside.
Yeah. So it's
Hmm.
got to start somewhere. So for example, for people who or children who had started out with, really dysfunctional family lives and that kind of thing, where they did not receive it from their parents and their family, and then they grow up, then let's say to be teenagers, how then can they develop, like rediscover their self-worth, right? And
Hmm.
that's really difficult.
Yeah, the challenge is that you come at from a single perspective that you have in life, and the perspective that you've been given and that you understand and that you've lived is that you're not worthy, right? So you need another perspective, and that could be other people telling you, "Oh no, that's not true. You're worthy." But if you don't have that,
Hmm.
how do you get that? And that's where I feel personally that psychedelic psychotherapy helped change that perspective. You drop that ego, you drop all of the conditioning that's been layered on top of you for decades, and you get to peek past that veil of crap that's been thrown over your head, and then you start to see, and then you start to feel. And they say seeing is believing, and when you feel something, it
Mm.
means a lot more than if you just read it or hear it. So in those types
Mm-hmm.
of conditions, if you're using a particular modality to, address a certain condition in your life, um, I think it's very, very, very worthwhile to, look into your self worth, because that really is the foundation in which you're going to live the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Mic drop. I don't know. Someone say something.
Oh, I was thinking when you were saying that, as an adult, we talk and we painted a little bit of how when you're a kid and when you're a teenager and as adult, so what is common self-worth, that I say coming from outside, is how much you, or what you do, how much useful you are to society, to others, how much
Mm-hmm.
money you make, so how much you're useful, how much you are profitable, in a sense. That it's definitely psychedelic can help us to see that self-worth is not related to something that you do, or even, no, just the idea is just, and it's, and I think it's easier to put things into perspective and understand and grasp the idea of you are worth it because you exist. Like now we all have pets, and pets nowadays, they're not useful, in a sense of, you don't have a dog to chase anyone from your house. You just have a dog because you love the dog, or a
Mm-hmm.
cat. right? We don't have cats anymore because we have mice in the house. That's not
Yeah.
that's not the reason. So they
Right.
are useless, but useless is not about word, because they teach us to unconditional love and unconditional worth, because we
Right.
absolutely can understand, yes, my dog or my cat is worth of all the food I give to them and more, just because they are, period.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole idea of your worth, I think if you're going to see a change in your perspective of that, there
Mhm.
needs to be some catalyst. There needs to be some
Mhm.
event.
Well,
I don't think you're bumbling through life and then one day all of a sudden realize, oh, I'm worth more than this. I mean, like anyone who's gone to their job and, you know, left it thinking, oh man, they're going to miss me. They don't miss you. They don't miss a beat.
yeah.
You know, your worth is not tied to your job. You know, anyone who thinks their worth is tied to their job just should quit and realize that the company's going to go on and do fine without them. So it's not what you do. That's got to come from
But
inside.
you make a so that makes me believe then that it's better to, if someone's trying to analyze their self-worth and or build up their self-worth, then they should start by first analyzing, where do they assign it? Where do they assign their worth?
That's really, really
Mm.
Do
important
they assign it
because
at work? Do they assign it with
Mm.
being in service or getting validation from other people? Like, what is it that they're assigning? Do they assign it to finances?
yes, because
You
the
know?
scale at which you measure, you know,
Yeah.
defines what your result and outcome is.
Yeah.
And,
Mm.
you know, if you're comparing yourself to somebody or something, that's a losing proposition. The quickest way to misery is to compare yourself to somebody else. I mean, your situations and circumstances are completely different. It's an
True
irrelevant
that.
comparison. And, you know, it's a self-defeating effort. I mean, you know, you compare yourself to a lot of people and you don't know all the story about them. There's a whole bunch of bad stuff that you don't see. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the whole concept of you got to keep up with the Joneses. I mean, that's terrible. It's trying to compete with your neighbor, and you know that's a bad way to look for validation and worth, I would imagine.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, but yet many people do it.
Yeah. So where do you develop that? How do you foster a fucking awesome attitude?
Like the idea of Laura saying, like, first of all, see where you put your worth right now,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and see, like, okay, I'm valuing how much money, I'm valuing my job, I'm valuing, I was thinking beauty also, like many women, men too. I'm
Yeah.
valuing how many muscles, how many cars, and so on
Mm-hmm.
and so on. And also the comparison can be another. Emotions are like signal that our body give us, right? Like other signal, like will be I'm hot, so it's hot, so on. So the comparison, seeing that we're comparing, that also is an indication. So I'm valuing that thing as something important, and I'm using that as a meter for my self value.
Yeah.
And so we can start like that for sure. And then what else?
And then what else?
And then what
Yeah.
else? Now we
So yeah,
know.
I know, right? I think we're all figuring it out. I think once we understand where we're placing our self value, like where we find importance, not only in others but in ourselves,
Mhm.
where what that whatever that is, then it's breaking it. I think it's breaking it down and saying, okay, and being truly honest with yourself. How am I doing with this particular category?
Mm.
And really just be honest with yourself. Like let's say you're struggling financially, but yet you put a whole lot of value in it. Well, then you're probably not going to have very high self-worth, right? And you just have to be honest with yourself that is what you're doing,
Mhm.
which I think is also a very difficult thing to do. Like,
Yeah, it's just not fair because you know what? Some people are inherently good at slam dunking a basketball,
mm-hmm.
right? I can't ever do that. You
No,
know,
you're 5'7".
some right. Some people are. I'd be lucky if I can grab the net. Um, but you know, some people are inherently good at making money,
Mhm.
or you know, some
There
guys
are,
are inherently good at attracting beautiful women to them. You know, it
like, they're
doesn't mean
charismatic.
yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't unattractive guy who doesn't have big muscles. You know, there's a lot of worth in those people. I mean, look at look at Bill Gates. He
Yeah.
was never big, strong,
But
or
no, like
attractive.
some people are naturally beautiful. you know, and then there's some people that kind of have to work on it and some people that are never going to get there.
Yeah. I like your idea of defining it,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes, definition can actually come from determining what it's not, right? So maybe a person who's struggling with this can write down, all the things that they know that don't define their self-worth in order to start to find those little things that, okay, well, I heard on this podcast that we are immensely infinitely valuable, right? I don't find any worth in myself. Where can I find just a penny, just a tiny little bit? Where's the bare minimum that I can muster up? And then, well, now you got one, and then you can find another one, and then you can find another one. And I don't think anybody can tell you what your worth is. That's something that you realize. If you're a parent, and you struggle with your self-worth, put yourself in your kid's shoes for a minute. You're extremely worthy to them, whether they tell you or not, So there's all these areas in our lives that we can define, show how much we are worth in little different areas. And those things start to add up and snowball. And once we get away from all of the crap that doesn't really matter in culture and society, then we can start building, that foundation for, seeing I'm fucking awesome attitude and just walking through life with confidence that you deserve everything that comes your way. Sorry for the bad language.
I think it's really important that if people are having a hard time assigning or thinking about what do I feel is worthy, like what do I, like sometimes when they try and think about it for themselves, it gets very difficult and they're just like, I don't know where to start. So I think a great suggestion would be to, okay, great, that's fine. Look to others. Like when you are out in the world today, what are you like? Every minute of every day we judge. There's judgment happening, and we go, that person is doing great or that person is not doing great. Like that is, it's just a natural thing for us to do. So when we're criticizing someone else, we're literally assigning some type of worth to what they're doing, whether we like it or whether we don't like it. So maybe it's just a matter of looking to others just to start that conversation with yourself. Like, oh, I just found myself, like judging them for parking incorrectly in the parking lot. They parked way too close to my car. So what does that mean? I don't, like just taking like little things like that. Like maybe, having someone who doesn't follow rules doesn't make you worthy or whatever, or contributes to your worth. I don't know, but I'm just coming up with shit.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
that's
I
great
judge
to
bad
use.
parking drivers all the time. I'm confident. I don't know if they're related.
That's good to use every little insights that we give ourselves, but be more aware because we're doing that anyway. So, but just like, oh, I'm thinking that. So
Yeah.
let's go down that road and see, instead of the road of continuing that dialogue of, for example, judging someone is, oh, that person parked badly, and oh, they could have parked this other way. Why did it, down that road, go down in the road of, I just thought about that. What is important for me about parking in a good way? What is the value behind? What is the worth that I see in parking, and so on and so on. So you can ask those questions and learn something about yourself, which is, once again, like all the sage people on earth always says, start from knowing yourself, right? Know thyself.
Know thyself.
I think a big key to this would be, once you realize that you are worthy, there's infinite ways to find your worth, right? I think those people who don't think they're worthy, I think we're talking about. And this reminds me of what we talked about last time. And, are we worthy of receiving? And my perspective was, by the fact that you got it, yup, you received it, you were totally worthy, the universe gave it to you, right? And by virtue of just being here and existing, that defines your worth. You're worthy of being here. You've been given this opportunity to live this life, and that shows. You got to the door and you had the ticket and you were worth admission. You got in. Now you're here. Do something with it. We're all worthy. We're all on this ride together. We're all in the nightclub. We're all doing our own thing in our own little corner, having either a good time or a bad time, but we all got in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think if you can, get over all the bullshit you've been told to believe about yourself and your lack of worth,
Mm-hmm.
then realize that, oh man, I'm at the dance, let me start dancing,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
I hope that sparks somebody's, you know, doubt in themselves, and they can move forward and, live the rest of their lives thrilled to be here. Because, man, it's got to be tough sledding if you don't think you're worthy of it.
Mm-hmm. It is. It
Yeah.
is. And just from my own personal, perspective, like, growing up, I was always taught I was not worthy. Like that was a big lesson growing up was, and it was taught directly to me. Like, you're not worthy to be alive. Like, I wanted to send you away and didn't want you
Oh.
alive. like it was just one of those things that it was just, if you, are taught that at a very
Mm-hmm.
early age, it is
Mm-hmm.
really difficult
Mm-hmm.
to, and it takes a long time
Yeah.
to change that program to say, oh, I am worthy.
Right.
Now as an adult, it's much, for me, it seems like it's much easier to define my worth.
Now, let me ask you this. When you were growing up, were you given the idea that you weren't worthy yet? Like, you had to earn it. You had to do
Well,
something.
yeah, of course.
So there was some kind of salvation if you did some kind of action. Well,
100%. Yeah. Like I had to, like, well, one, I was automatically not worthy. And then every time I didn't meet any expectations, I was even more unworthy. So it was like, oh, well, at least if I meet those expectations, then I'll have some level of worth. I think there were levels to that.
it sounds like a layer of manipulation in there and laced in somewhere.
Totally. Totally. It was awful.
Yeah.
But once you get older and realize, okay, holy shit, I can't believe I spent my entire life feeling unworthy, like feeling like I had to do something to receive love, to receive validation.
And the worst part of the situation is the people who made you feel like that were probably ones who didn't feel like they were worthy.
Yeah, it's at some level, maybe, I don't know, or they were just completely unconscious.
You bleed on those that you're around if you don't heal yourself.
Like, so. Well, like let's take your father for example, because he's a really interesting case, right? Here's a man very successful in life, right, who clearly did not, I don't think, show you that you were very worthy, but at the same time, like, did he have low self-confidence, do you think? Because I don't know.
He was a nihilist and a materialist, so he did not believe in religion or spirit. He thought, you lived, you died. Who gets the most toys when they live wins. Yeah, I think he was wholly bought into the materialistic side that, you're worthy of your accolades thing. And he had a PhD, so he was a doctor and he had lots of money and he lived in fancy places. Yeah, I think he had tremendous self-worth.
Yeah.
He didn't see the other side of it, where unfortunately the people that disliked this person the most were his wives and children and any personal relationships. The guy had no friends. Yeah, so but he was totally happy in life because he thought he had won.
But that's the exact opposite then of what you were, not opposite, but your other comment was that, someone who's not giving you self-worth doesn't have it themselves. And in your case, you're saying, yeah, he did.
But probably,
well, I know his parents did not instill self-worth into him. So on the personal side of things, I think he lived that. He didn't have friends and stuff. But the complication was he didn't believe in spirit or God he's literally,
So you're now, but how does that factor in? I don't understand the correlation.
I think, yeah, in a sense, I said before, the development for self-worth, because we're born and we receive definition from the outside, and so we buy into those definition, and growing up we buy into definition that self-worth is related to the outside world. And then if there's nothing else, that probably with spirituality, religion, that's what Rob was saying, there's nothing else that make us ring a bell or open our eyes of, oh, maybe that's not the actual what self-worth means. It's not that. and so start to seek for something that comes from within, the person will continue to look for self-worth outside, because and then look like he's really big, confident, and lots of self-worth, but is keep doing that because he has none inside. And the only way, so it's like an addict of any kind, the only way he can have some is grabbing outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it looks he has tons, but it will never feel the void inside of not having that self-worth inside,
Yeah.
because he didn't have that extra step. As an adult, it's like, oh, wait a minute, everything that I've been learned so far about self-worth, that's not it. I still don't feel it inside. Maybe it's taking it from the outside, that's not the way. And spirituality tells me that, I'm psychedelic and that and spirits or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if you don't have that step, you never open those eyes and you continue doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what I was fortunate enough personally is that I was then surrounded by a peer group and
Mm-hmm.
just like my own exploration into spirituality that I was able to rebuild that, my own
Mm-hmm.
self worth, that is.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's another good sort of suggestion for people is to, when if they're looking for and wanting to deepen their self-worth and their validation for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
to go to the route of spirituality or religion, like something that can inspire them,
Mm-hmm.
like on a soul level.
Yeah, for sure. So we were saying so far, just to summarize, so pretty much a little bit understanding the evolution of self-worth and difference in
Mm-hmm.
depending on the stages. And then when you're adult, you're like, okay, that's it's different, and I feel it's different inside, and now I can start researching within myself what it means for me, worth, what is and we can use different tools that can be comparison, judgment, that things we do on the
Mm-hmm.
outside, and trying to, without judgment at that point, okay, let's follow this thought, let's follow this emotion and see where it comes from, right? And see, okay, what's the definition behind putting self-worth in beauty, for example, or money? What do
Right.
I put? Like, not only, okay, now I realize I put self-worth in that and I feel I don't have it, that's why then I don't feel worth it, but also why you putting, why it's the definition that worth needs to be money or beauty, and so on and so on. So really dig into all this. And then one step, or maybe it's not even a step, but doing that, having a peer group, peer support, and be able to explore that together. And also,
Mm-hmm.
like, recreating, we had a programming of self-worth coming from outside in a certain way, helping each other to reprogram yourself, even with the consciousness that that right now you're doing that, still seeking a sort of, you help each other in validating each other's self-worth, right? Still from the
Yes.
outside, but it's just you
Mhm.
with the conscious that it's right now, it's just a step, because we're just looking for to build it inside, but using how the mind works, like, for example, repetition, like, of certain things. The mind, the more you repeat, the more you're in that energy, you are in that field, the more, like, the mind will see, oh, that actually a truth, that's actually something that exists, that's what I want more. And so, yeah, you can help each others to build that together with the consciousness that at a certain point you want that to become 100% from inside only, but that's just a
Mhm.
small step. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Melissa, when you said, beauty and money, I just shuddered because those are like the two worst things to use for your self-worth, the two
Hmm.
worst gauges. I mean, they're completely irrelevant in the big picture. And
Yeah, but
that's
yet that's our
that's our
society.
society and our culture. So,
Uh-huh.
and so many people, like, if you take a look at the top, 20% or whatever it is of beauty and money, none of us compare, right? We all suck when we're compared to
Hmm.
the most pretty and the most rich. So, I think a real good way to see some of your self-worth, if you're not super beautiful or super rich, and you want to try to see what it's like, um, go to the grocery store, convenience store, gas station, and when you see the cashier, genuinely look him in the eye and say, "Hey, how you doing today?" Have a big smile. See if you can make that person smile back. Whenever I go to the grocery store, I try to go to the checkout line where there's a person standing there bored and looking like absolutely nothing's going well for them in life. And I give them a big smile and I engage them
Mhm.
in a little chit chat and talk. And they smile and they giggle and they laugh. And I walk out of the store and I had an impact on them.
Yeah.
That person didn't look happy. They looked a little bit miserable. When I walked up, they were
Mhm.
doing their job, a little interaction. I gave them a nice big smile and I left and they were happier. And that's how I feel that I can see my impact on the world without
Mhm.
trying to compare, accolades that, are irrelevant. So I would recommend that for somebody. I love doing that.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah, so
beautiful.
you assign self-worth to making others happy.
I think that,
Make me happy.
I mean, here's an analogy. We are all boats, right? And we're just motoring on through the lake and we leave a wake. And then the wake of that boat impacts people and you can impact them in a positive or negative manner.
Correct.
And, if you have a boat that has a positive wake, I think that's a beautiful thing. I've been around and I've known lots of people who go through life just motoring along and they have this wake that is destructive and everyone's, tossed around and disheveled after their presence moves on. And, energetically, I don't like how that feels. And
Mhm.
I don't want to portray that. So I think you can move through life in a more graceful manner and
Well,
the world responds to you in a
Mhm.
different way.
okay, so but going back to what you were saying with like for someone who has a very low self-worth, they can try this,
Mm-hmm.
try making someone else happy. But what if that's not something they care about? Like what if that's not how they assign their own self-worth? Then I don't think that would do anything for them. Yes, it would make an impact on someone else's day, but would that really affect their own self-worth? I think comes back down to they still need to focus on what it is they are assigning their self-worth to.
Yeah, and I naturally assumed it was either things or relationships,
Mhm.
right? I don't know what
Uh,
else there could be. Um,
well, if you assign it
yeah,
to money,
yeah, that's things, right?
if you're assigning, let's say you assign your self-worth to money, then, going over and going to a cashier and giving them a smile isn't going to affect your self-worth. That's going to do nothing for you.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
No, but we started this conversation with assigning self-worth to money, and beauty is the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
people do it. So
All right, well,
it's a moot
step
point.
one is
Don't do it. You
that's
can't tell
wrong.
people.
If you're doing that, you're going down the wrong
You
road.
can't tell. You can't
Yes,
say that to people. You
you can
can't say
totally tell that to people. This is what the whole
you
podcast
can't.
is about.
No, what I'm saying is you can't say to people, "Stop doing that,"
No, you
because they're
cannot.
already doing it.
Well,
It's a progression.
then they need to
Yeah,
figure that out.
I
Put on your
think
That's what
big,
we're
put on
talking
your big
about.
boy pants and stop trying to find your self worth in things.
I think it's again like finding and reflecting on the definition. Okay, so there's a fact that okay, I can notice that the society or me, whatever, put worth in beauty and money. So then start reflecting. Okay, for example, beauty, that they're both sort of almost failure goals in a sense. Beauty, especially because they almost like you start up and then you grow older. So there's always chasing something that it will never come almost. Or if it comes for 5 minutes. Be careful.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so
Right.
it's always self-defeating. So, you buy more products, you're like you're not liberated. You're sort of enslaved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and money is also okay. Money is one part of you can reflect. There's a reflection I'm doing. That's just examples of how you can reflect on these things and say, okay, money. What is money? Money is a tool, and being rich just having money. Like I will always remember this. I don't know if it was a chief or anyway, it was someone from a tribe, from probably Yamanawa tribe, and he was saying, well, we are rich just because we don't have cars or houses. We are rich. We are rich in biodiversity. We're rich in spirituality. So how do you define being rich? That's the thing.
Exactly.
You define being
Yeah.
rich having a bunch of numbers on your computer because it's not more even cash, which at the same
Yeah.
time it doesn't matter, but it's even less tangible. Beauty, you define beauty because they told you that is beautiful and not this other thing is beautiful. So it's also not even your own definition of beauty. So you can reflect and come down to like those things just don't make sense to me, and if they don't make sense to you, it's like okay, I'm putting worth and I'm creating misery in my life on something that doesn't make sense, actually. And maybe at that point, and then that's when you can start looking for what means worth or self-worth and so on.
The
And
definition.
then, yeah, so what it means for me. And I'm gonna add something like from probably from Sadhguru, that is like, you either think your worth is infinite, and the same with any other things, infinite, or is your worth or your unworth is infinite. You can go in both
I
directions.
like that.
You go in the
It can be
direction
both
of,
ways.
yes, both direction
Yeah.
good. When it's hard, because both direction go to the infinite, right? You can
Yeah.
include, can be all or nothing. That all or nothing is the same, infinite. But the problem is when you go into the one, two, three, whatever. So it's like many people. I mean, when we struggle with self worth, it's not because we don't have none. There is a little bit that we have, right? So we just have a little bit of self worth. Because I'm sure it's not like it's completely none. So it's not existent. So it's not even an issue in your life. You just think, I am infinitely unworthy, period, or infinite worth it. But it's just like, oh, I have a little bit, and compared to all the others and all the other numbers, and so I will never reach that self-confidence, self-worth inside, because I will go towards, let's say, number and quantity and the matter.
Yeah.
I'm not
You know,
saying I know how to go to the infinite, but
I don't.
when it comes to like things like money and beauty, it doesn't even really matter, because the true reality of it is that no one really cares
No one cares what.
if you're pretty or rich.
But people do care.
Not in a general scheme of
They do.
things. So what? Say you
Well,
got $2 million. Like, you think everyone's going to be like, "Oh man, you're so great. That's awesome." No
oh,
one's
and
going to really
that's
care. They're going to be kind of jealous. I mean, you watch, beautiful people walk around, and there are other
oh,
people
God.
that don't look at them very positively.
Oh,
There are
okay.
some people that give them comments, but you know, you
it's
there's
like a known fact. Like beautiful people
it's a curse almost,
would
right?
get a job over someone who's not as beautiful.
Potentially.
No, it's a known fact. Having exactly the same criteria, exactly the same education, exactly the same background and skill set, all the things. If they go to this job interview, the person who is prettier, more beautiful, whatever, better looking, handsomer, whatever you want to call it, they're the ones who get the job.
You're not helping our case here, sweetheart.
I'm not helping yours,
No, but I
but I
understand
am
what.
just
Yeah,
saying
well,
that
it
is
matters because,
statistical facts. That's all, and we should change that, of course.
well, but I mean, this is just, an extension of, competitions in elementary
Mhm.
school and athletics in high school. We're all competing for something.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that it's right or wrong,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but, you know,
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
anyway, if someone is, I mean, you because said in the statistic, both people have all the same background, and one is more beautiful, so it has
mhm,
an extra things on the same package. So
Exactly.
even
yeah,
if you get something, you get oh, the two things are the same. Let's get what they have a little bit more, which in that case is beauty. But maybe this, if they did the study of someone is more competent than the other is less competent, just more beautiful, it probably will be a different result. I don't know, but
Yeah.
anyway, all
yeah.
this to say that we cannot demonize either of that at this point, because beauty of money, it's or just giving it, just it doesn't, it's just like one element of the whole. It's just not giving all this worth to one
Mhm.
element, but always see
Hmm.
the whole picture and find your own definition of what everything is, why you're giving so much importance to something that's important. It's all these things for me are important in helping us, each one of us, to discover more of who we are, and then connecting more with and tune with our higher self, higher mind, and then follow what is there for us in
Yeah.
this life.
I want to bring
Well
up
said.
one more thing
Hmm.
that we haven't really touched on yet, is that sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where we are unworthy and we are not appreciated. If you find yourself in a place that you're not appreciated,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Oh yeah.
do a quick assessment. Be like, am I, are they worthy of having me here? Right?
Hmm.
Are they worthy? Is this worth my, should I go find something else to do? If you don't feel appreciated, maybe that's a sign that you need to go do something else that you
Hmm.
would be more in line with, more excited or interested to do. Sometimes you find yourself in a group of people and you're just like, I don't know if I want to be here. Are you not worthy? Is the situation not worthy? Are those people not worthy? Who knows? But your worth in that situation is the topic, and you need to determine whether you want to continue that or you want to go somewhere else where your worth feels fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I
Yeah.
genuinely feel in my life that in certain times I felt like I was in places where I just, didn't want to be. And I felt that I
Mm-hmm.
was more worthy in other places. And if anyone's ever changed a job, the best job you can have is when you get a job where people value you, and you
Mm-hmm.
feel like you're worthy. Then
Hmm.
you'll do anything. It doesn't matter what it is. You're important.
Mm-hmm.
So there are
Hmm.
situations where you can have that worth kind of dictated to you a bit. So it can come from external situations. So you should be aware of that. But
Okay.
for the most part, if you're in tune and you feel you're really worthy, you'll know that that situation probably won't even happen to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. It's like you can use those situation against feedback for some whatever kind of feedback, and also like red flags that is not your path or place to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. All right. Any last word to conclude our
Well,
beautiful?
I think what I would say to anyone listening is that your emotions are going to guide this. So you're going to know immediately when you're not feeling worthy by your emotions and how you feel in certain situations or interactions with people or in life or experiences in life. You're going to know based on your emotions. So I would say, tap into your emotions, tap into what's happening and how you're feeling, and then go from there.
Mm-hmm.
I only have one thing to say, and that is you're worthy.
Oh
Mhm. Plain and simple.
no, you copied mine.
Sorry.
No, I had that, and so I'm gonna go with the second one that I had. Also, you can start working, grow your self worth, and looking as how you look at others that you really care. Like maybe you have a friend, or you have your kids, or you have a whoever you have, even a pet. You know that just looking at them, you're like, yeah, they're just worth it. Period. And thinking, okay, like putting yourself in them and think, okay, so I can see them and they're worth it no matter what. Doesn't matter if they make that mistake or the other mistake. I just know they're worth it. And
Yeah.
remember that you are as well. So you can start growing that feeling in this
Hmm.
way, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like using them as a mirror. I
Yes.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful mirror.
Beautiful.
All right. So thank you, Rob and Laura. It was amazing. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone,
Mel.
for listening. Thank you, Cacao. And thank you, spirits. Thank you, everyone, again for listening. You can follow us, ask for any other topic you want us to discuss. And that's it. Cacao you later.
Cacao you later.
Cacao you later.
Mwah.